I'm generally not a man that gloats, or at least one that finds himself gloating a lot of the time. But all I can say is, I told you so. Now, if you don't know what I'm referring to, I'm talking about a video I made probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago titled Why I'm Worried About Destiny 2's Beta, and by extension the game. In that video, I talked specifically about what I felt was going to be lacking in the beta, in terms of content. But if you watch the video, which not many people did, you would realize that my whole point was that there wasn't enough content. Now, I had shared this opinion widely around the community and things like that before, to which it fell upon most deaf ears. Most people calling me entitled, most people calling me an idiot for judging something before it comes out, and a whole bunch of other normal stuff the Destiny community likes to call people that, talk about their baby Destiny or their godfather Bunjo. But I just like to say, I told you so. The beta has come out recently, and everyone so far has dove in and started playing it. And let me tell you, this beta is bad. By all intents and purposes, it is bad. It is not good. It is not insightful. It's everything I said it was going to be in that video, and then some. Now, that's not to say that the gameplay itself is horrendous or awful. I think a lot of people are maybe taking the fact that everything is kind of minuscule and there's not that much stuff to do and maybe that's influencing their decision to say the game is actually bad. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, nor anywhere is it good and improved that much from Destiny 1, but I don't exactly think it's bad, at least not yet. I, for one, have actually enjoyed playing PvP a lot more than I did in Destiny 1, or at least the one currently, because Bungie fucks up their meta more than your average Walmart during Black Friday, but I have actually enjoyed the PvP. Why do I say that the Destiny 2 beta is bad, then? Well, sit down, folks, grab some popcorn, a drink, because I'm about to tear Destiny 2's beta a new asshole. Again, because it's basically going to be the same things I said in the previous video. But most Destiny players are kind of used to doing and hearing the same monotonous, repetitive thing over and over again, so I don't think they're going to feel that out of home here. When I say Destiny 2's beta is bad, that's not necessarily saying, like I said earlier, that the gameplay itself is bad. That's something that Bungie has always seemed to hit pretty well, with getting the gameplay in Destiny 1 pretty spot on in the terms of shooting. It feels good to shoot things. Now, when you consider their previous works like Halo and crap, it's pretty understandable why they nailed that. But I'd just like to say that that is the bread on this shiitake sandwich here we have. Okay? It's the only thing that's good because it's the only thing that's pretty hard to fuck up. Everything else tends to fill the bread with a lot of sourness. Beginning with how the gameplay is kind of laid out. I noticed it when I was playing the story mission, and more so in PvP. This game is slower. Now, I know they've said that it's slower in a lot of interviews and things like that, and obviously you can just look at the game and kind of tell it's a little bit slower, but I must stress, it is slower. Like, things dying are a lot slower in PvP and in PvE. Overall DPS is a lot less and slower, which is pretty bad considering that Destiny 1's bosses had a very similar problem as well, of dying at the speed of molasses falling at a tree, except now it's more like the speed of molasses falling off a tree, but it's glued to the tree. Because, no more special weapons that actually do decent amount of DPS, which I'll get into later in the video. Now, that's for the PvE experience, at least from what we've had to play. The PvP experience is very similar, and although I do, like I said, like the PvP a bit more, it's slower. If you don't like Halo type of combat, you're not going to like Destiny 2's PvP. It is effectively like someone falling down the steps, breaking their neck, and then walking for about 5 minutes out the door to continue their day before they realize they're dead. And not dying even from an injury. Like, it's more like the Grim Reaper forgot to do his damn job and was like, oh, well, I gotta get up the toilet and do this real quick. The time to kill is painfully slow. Now, it can be good and bad. It can work in your favor in multi-person engagements, I mean, you can burn people pretty fast in 2v1s, which is kind of like Destiny 1 in that sense, but in 1v1s, you will definitely feel the slowness. Not only are time to kills very slow, but abilities and recovery is slow. And I'll get onto abilities in a second, but recovery. I swear that I got shot and pretty much burned down to like what equivalently would be like 10 or 15% HP, and it took probably about a good 15 to 20 seconds for me to get back to full. And I was out of combat for a very significant amount of time, not shot at all and everything like that. It is very slow to get your health back. A little bit too slow, actually. It kind of warrants that more after you kill someone, run away and scream behind a wall versus run away for a second and then get back into the fight to help your allies. Now, obviously, this could have been because of the armor they gave us. I'm pretty sure the armor bonuses we were getting were pretty bad, or I hope they were bad, because if that's how they actually are in the full game, we're going to have another problem. Specifically about the abilities and armor bonuses comes into play the class abilities and things like that. Now, the class ability actually was respawning on people pretty fast, although I didn't see that many people using them, except the Titan wall, that was used pretty prevalently. I think the Hunters were using their jump, so I didn't see that many empowerments of like health or whatever the Warlocks were throwing around. I know I would put one behind a wall and I would stay there and guard and fire and stuff like that, but not many people I was playing with did that. Don't know, maybe it was just like maybe because it's like a ring, it's not exactly the best for using in cover and other stuff. I don't know. Either way, the rest of the abilities were slow. If you want to use your super, be prepared to take about as much time as it takes to sit in a hospital waiting room. And by the time your wait in that hospital is over, you've already died from whatever ailment you had. Like, effectively, 4 to 5 deaths for anything to come back. I wasn't even able to use my super for about 50% of the games that I played in. And I was actively killing people, too. I don't know about you, but it seems like the kill bonuses also are pretty bad. Because generally, for those people that play Destiny, you get a kill bonus, and for every consecutive kill you get, an extra bonus to that charging your super, which encourages better players because they get their abilities and stuff faster the more they kill. But it was charging really slow. There was a lot of games where I just went superless. This is good and bad. Some people don't like ability spam. Some people like to have the supers more prevalent in the game, but it's just too slow to me. I mean, I don't know why they don't just make a mode where there is no super abilities. They could do that, just like a bare bones mode, where it's just shooting and stuff like that. You know, like pretty much every other successful shooter that has some type of special ability in the mix of the combat. However, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people saying that, well, if you don't like PvP, well, don't play it, Dragon God. No one's forcing you to play PvP. Which would be true, except, you know, you can only get certain weapons and armor in specific game modes that they've stated like this for the past 3 years. So yeah, if I kind of want to get a certain weapon, like a Red Spectre in Destiny 1, I have to play PvP and hope it drops for 2 years. So yeah, please throw that comment out the damn window. I'm not going to entertain it, nor am I going to confront the Bungie Bubble Boy who wants to talk about that point, because it's stupid. However, since PvP was never my main focus in Destiny, even when I followed the game 2 years before launch, anyway, let's focus on the thing I actually do care about. The PvE part of this game. It's ass. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the fact that they hid a lot of the stuff for the story mission, and it was a lot longer than what they had shown, because before, one of my complaints about the story mode they had shown was that it was only like 15 minutes story mission, where I feel like story missions should be pretty long and actually encompass a wider area. This certainly did, and had a few more cutscenes that we hadn't seen. Obviously, they weren't trying to show everything the first time they revealed it, but it's nice to know there was a lot more than what they did. I think like 2 or 3 areas worth of stuff more. And I did like the little public area space that people can kind of join you in when you're fighting to protect Zavala or whatever. That was also pretty cool. And I hope they involve more in other story missions. But this is a shooter story. Now, that's an improvement from Destiny 1's clusterfuck, but it's definitely not something that deserves praise, in my opinion. It's more like a, at least you made something decent type thing. Stuff just doesn't make sense. Not only from a lore perspective, but just from a, like, cohesive, like, thinking street perspective. Which I know is very hard for your average Destiny player, but please, bear with me here. Look, if we have had threats multiple times from deep space, Oryx, the Darkness, Crota, you know, an interdimensional Time Lord, Atheon, like that. You would think that we would just start preparing for stuff like this when we hear about it the first time. You know, and like in the first, when Destiny 1's original campaign, and they talked about the Shrines of Oryx, and how, hey, the message got sent, something's out there, and I think it's gonna hear it. We should probably prepare for this. Nah. Okay, well, we got, you know, we got into a Taken war because of it, but hey, we've learned our lesson again, right now, right? No? Okay, well, how are we gonna prepare for the, incoming threat of the Cabal that we've talked about in the lore of the game? The DS is on another site, I know. Still, one of the most annoying things about this. But if you did read those cards, you would realize that, hey, we are aware of the encroaching threat, or at least something that's encroaching on us. Like the Fallen Houses just randomly deciding, yeah, F this, we're gonna leave. We're tired of fighting the humans, Awoken and Exo, for this traveler that we had before in our whole entire legacy and pride and everything. We don't care anymore. We're just gonna leave for no reason. Okay, so we're not gonna prepare like something, you know, that's willing to take basically all the fallen houses except I believe the House of Kings and make them leave, try to leave the solar system in quick haste. We're not gonna take that as something we should be preparing for. No, 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 no. So when the Cabal comes down and just starts destroying the city and everything, I have to raise a couple flags of like why, how and why. First off, how were they able to destroy all our satellites, and that only took us, you know, until they attacked us, you know, to notice that they destroyed our satellites. No one was checking the satellites periodically. There wasn't a beep or a scanner that went off saying, "Oh, satellites aren't there." Like it took you guys a split second to be like, "Hey, something might be coming this because of the storm. We might want to check our all of our recon thing." Also, you can't tell me that us and every other guardian out in the entire Sol system didn't notice or hear, you know, an entire Cabal fleet encroaching on the tower. What, was everyone sniffing ether seeds or doing lines off a dead Vex or something? I just don't see how they got that far in without anybody noticing and being a big surprise to everyone. But hey, I hear most players are used to a disingenuous story. So, points for faithfulness, I guess. I mean, even if you're going to assume that the fleet just encompassed everyone and started destroying everyone, you know, on the way there, it's very hard for me to believe that there's no way they could have known or noticed about this, especially when the Grimoire specifically says they had the warning signs for it. For the most part, the story mission goes like a traditional story mission. You fight waves of enemies, you continue to the next area, something happens, set piece, and you continue on to the next area. Again, it's a shooter story. It feels more connected, I will admit, and I like that connectedness a lot more, but it's not really anything special. And it seems like since they're taking most of the big lore points out that actually were kind of interesting in the Grimoire, I'm not sure what type of story they're going to be throwing together here. Again, you can be excited for that since you don't know what's going to happen, or you could be like me that's mildly skeptic because of the way this first mission came out. But funny enough, I did actually find myself enjoying the story mission, but it was only in contrast to the next thing, the strike. Oh my god. Oh my god. This strike. Okay. Before I get to the boss, let's just begin with the actual strike. Nessus is a nice looking planet. In fact, it looks a lot like how the Black Garden was concepted to look, so I don't know if there's like some weirdness going on there and they've worked on this for a while. Whatever. It looks nice, I'll admit that. I like the color palette, although it's a bit dry, but I think that's more of the Destiny 2 aesthetic, I think. Colors looking like a lot drier and paler than the color in Destiny 1. The way you traverse across the strike, you definitely cover some distance, but a lot of that distance just kind of feels inflated in a way. Which is, I guess, supposed to make the world feel more alive. The fact that it's very large and sprawling. But I've walked across grocery store parking lots with more entertainment than I got out of traversing a lot of these areas of Blinkness. But I could live with this. I could live with all of this because there's actually, 2 sections before you get to the boss, so it does feel like you're leading up to some segments, I guess. But the boss. Oh my god. The boss. Is it a bit too much to ask for Destiny to innovate a bit more with its bosses? I know it's Destiny. I know Bullet Sponge is the epitome and also the staple of what makes Destiny bosses. But oh my god. This boss is a Destiny 1 boss wearing Destiny 2 skin, which is worn just as poorly as the execution of this boss's phases, which they themselves deserve execution. I refuse to call them mechanics, by the way. Now, before someone says,
Dragon God, it has mechanics and stuff to it. It's not a Destiny 1 boss. What are you talking about?
let me break it down for you, smart one. This boss has segments, we'll call them. They're not mechanics, because they don't actually involve the player changing the way they're moving around or doing things like that. If you bring it down a third of the health, or 25%, it will drop you to the next area you fight it in. What is different about this area? Nothing. The same type of cover and things like that exist on this area that existed on the top area. You then shoot the boss that is now glowing red instead of purple and now has a machine gun instead of a torch hammer. Okay, so it changed weapons. What else does it do? Oh, well, now it hits the ground and makes fire. Now that you could call a mechanic, it was actually something that warranted, actually preparing for. You could just, quietly jump for about 5 seconds. Descend down and be perfectly fine. Or, tank the damage like I see everyone do anyway. It's not a mechanic that really makes you change how you play, so it's not really a mechanic to me. Whatever, you get it down another 25%, what does it do? Drops you again. There we go. Another segment. What does the area look like? Oh, it's basically the same. Another ring-like area with cover sprawled out in the same basic positions. I know that they're segments, and they actually do change mildly what you're doing. But up until about the last 25% of the boss's health, when it actually starts charging you actively and changes its attack patterns, that's about the only real thing in that strike boss. Because at that point it actively changes its playstyle and you have to adapt to it. You can no longer just hide behind that one piece of cover you're hiding behind and shooting the thing, because now it will actively chase you around that cover and shoot you. It's pretty simple, but it's actually applied really well on this boss. Except, it's only for the last 20% of the boss, and by then everyone's probably got a super, or they're just going to just start burning the boss as fast as possible, which, might I say, is very difficult now with the whole revamped weapon system. I'm not like another person I know that completely hates the thing, but I can definitely see their opinions on it, and I'm starting to feel a very similar way about it how they are. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Osiris212, go check him out. Because of the way the weapons are, having basically 2 primaries, you can't output the same amount of DPS as you could in Destiny 1. And I said this on stream, but I felt like the bosses had less health in Destiny 2, probably to compensate for that. I completely redact that statement. After playing the strike 5 times, that is not true. It's nowhere near true. And if it is, they've somehow turned the bosses not enough so that it feels just as long, if not longer now, with the new weapon system. So I really feel like they need to decrease the amount of health the boss has. I could probably bear with the fact that it's not mechanically inclined and based in anything if it just died with any level of speed or reasonable time. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of things taking about as long as it takes to read an entire Stephen King novel, to die. And this is a boss that has no mechanics once again. So, it's just a straightforward shoot match, and it still takes that long. But although this stuff is bad, I could swallow the crap a little bit easier if it wasn't for the amount that there is of it. Now, yes, before I hear and see 1,000 comments say,
It's a beta. What do you want? It's a beta. Do you want them to show you
everything, you know what? I don't expect Longhorn or Outback to give me a salad as my main course. I expect them to give me a steak, or at least some of it as a steak. Especially if last time I ate there, they gave me a steak. Because this isn't enough. And I'm not the only one that feels this way now. There's a lot of people that feel this way. It's not enough. At the time of this video, there is 2 Crucible match modes with 2 maps, 1 strike, and the story mission you can only play once on every character unless you delete a character. That's not that much stuff. And I did in that last video, I'll do it again. Compare it to Destiny 1's beta, and it's like comparing a puddle to a lake. Regardless if that lake is 1/4 the size of the full lake. And then say that it's big, or you shouldn't be complaining. Look, I get that you probably don't want them to share everything with us and don't want to issue like how Destiny 1 had. But you gotta understand, it was not the beta that was the problem, it was the game. The game didn't have enough content, not the beta. The beta was fine. It gave you a complete overview of what you were going to get. We just didn't know how much of that was the actual game at the time. Had we known, we probably would have had different opinions. Not about the beta, but about the full game. I don't understand why they can't give us more stuff, like a patrol area. Because all the stuff, once again, that we had played through is stuff you could play on the original Destiny, other than the Search and Destroy, which it's basically Trials of Osiris, but with an objective that no one, for some reason, ever uses. No one ever goes for the objective, at least not with the people I played. It's either by accident or just because they want to draw people in, they actually go for the objective. It's just 4v4 elimination, basically. Tell me your thoughts on the amount of content in the beta, your overall feel, and opinion of the beta. I myself am not going to probably return to it. I pretty much got the videos I want to get for it. I got to see those glitched in areas that I was able to figure out and find. But there's not much really left for me to do, and I don't really find enough enjoyment to go back and play PvP anymore. Or, you know, the Strike again, that I've already stated I'm not a fan of. And unless they open up a patrol area with the new stuff that they keep quote-unquote saying is the big thing for Destiny, Lost Sectors, new revamp and control, adventures, I don't really care, because once again, this is all stuff you could just do in Destiny 1. What I mean is, you can do strikes in Crucible in Destiny 1, and although this is slower now, it's basically the same type of content. It's not the new stuff they keep bragging about. I'll probably be doing some EDF and Neo streams very soon, so stay tuned for those. And if they change something with the beta, like I hope they do, then I'll probably have another video talking about what they change and how I feel about that as well. But at the moment, it's just bad. Play through it for about 5 hours, you'll get the gist of it. And yeah, that's it. This is Destiny Dragon God signing out.